Now we move on to our last session of the day, titled Who Owns the Consumer? For this session, we have Ruchira Jaitly, CMO from Diageo India.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible right all the way to the back? Yeah. So it's my pleasure to be here today. I know this is the last session, so I'm sure that you must be tired. You must have heard enough about data and about commerce on the internet, which is the last session that I saw. So appreciate you all being here to listen to this session. I'm really proud to represent Diageo here. Diageo, as you know, is a global alcohol, bev, or spirits company and operating across the world. I am their Chief Marketing Officer. So when Financial Express asked me to come here and talk about consumer data, I was pleasantly surprised. Typically, it's something that you'd ask a lot of tech majors about. So my thanks to the Financial Express team and to Anushree in particular for thinking of me to come and talk about data. I'm flattered, right? We're not typically seen as people who do too much about data. But the fact is that actually a lot of the work that we do nowadays and a lot of how we do business pretty much across the value chain is dependent on how we can manage data, right? And with that come a lot of the associated concerns. So it's a provocative topic to say consumer data, who really owns it? And I hope that by the end of this session, at least I give you a very, very good idea of the way we look at it at Diageo. But first, the mission. What's our mission as Diageo and what's the vision that we have for our future? As Diageo, our goal is to celebrate life every day and everywhere, right? So we're all about celebrations. And now we're about that next generation of celebrations, not simple celebrations. What does the consumer desire in the next generation of celebrations? One, something that's special, and in this day and age, certainly worth sharing. Something I can put up on my Instagram profile, I can put up on my social media. The second is something that's personal to me. Personalization has become the single largest need for consumers. Simple and easy because we've all got busy lives. We've got so many more things that we want to pack into life, including maybe binge watching on our favorite serials at night. So we don't want to spend the whole day organizing, this special celebration. And to do it anytime and anywhere, pretty much on my own terms. And what's our vision and what does it mean for us in this vision that we have, right? One, we want to be able to influence and to bring elevation into that special moment, right? That's what makes it special if we can elevate it. Of course, if it makes it personal, so we've got to create those personal moments in it which make consumers feel, oh my God, this is personalized to me. Enable seamless planning and always be accessible and ubiquitous, which means digital actually is becoming a very key enabler of how we bring this alive. And frankly, it is something that we'd like to embrace. And in digital, data is what powers. It's literally the lifeblood of how you will deliver it, right? Because if the consumer is king, the power comes from everything that you know about what they are desiring in those experiences and how they can make it come alive. But for us, it is extremely important, and which is why I'm really delighted to be here, because we do have large volumes of data generated across the world. So how we collect it, how we process it, and how we use it is very, very important. The first important concept is consent. For all of you who get onto that consent bar at the bottom, right? It is an exceptionally important part of how we collect data. But more than even consent, so for us at Diageo, it's very clear. Not only do we need consent on collecting the data, as in taking your data, but equally on the time duration, on the very, very specific purpose, in clear and unambiguous terms. And done in a manner in which you have to click and say yes. It's a pain because it means you're at least 2 clicks away from all the content that you want, right? But that's what we have to deliver. What can that include? It could include your name, email, all of those various features there. It could also, by the way, talk about interest trails, about your browsing history, about what you've purchased in the past. All of that is data that you have to consent to us collecting, right? For us to be able to use it. And the privacy notice has to state very clearly in an itemized manner what you are consenting to. So no data collected by us can violate these two principles. In fact, if you ask me, consent and privacy notice, these are going to become the holy grail of any marketing. So when you think of what you want to put out when you collect data, both of these have to be very clearly enunciated, else you could be challenged. Yeah. The evolution of marketing is such that both of these are going to be the foundation of what you're going to do. Because where is marketing going? Once you have that consent and the privacy notice locked in, what you need to deliver is, and why do you need it? Because what you need to deliver is a balance of personalization and privacy. All of us want want emails, want data, want experiences. They are not spam. There is not something that looks like it was generated for every single person and not relevant to me specifically, right? And for that, that's the personalization we desire. But equally, we want to also know that our privacy is not being evaded, right? That something isn't following us around and telling us about things that make us feel. The words I would use is creeped out, which is when people, something's always following you around on your shoulder and you're looking behind and saying, is there someone who's literally monitoring everything that I'm doing? So I want to know that the personalization is on my terms. And for that, both the consent, because you consent to what data is being collected and how it's going to be used, and the privacy notice, and I'm going to talk about that in more detail later, how both of these are coming together. What you're also going to have to do, because of the evolution in MarTech, is an investment in MarTech, right? What does that mean? Consumer data platforms, CRM platforms, all of that's a lot of cost. And what that cost implies is that you have the right controls in place, so your data is safe. If your data is not safe, you could be held ransom by a lot of other people. And people have had to make massive payouts over the last couple of years. It's regularly in the news. Some of them are told, some of them are untold when data is made public. Equally, it puts in place processes that ensure that in the organization, no individual has access to this data or can misuse the process so that the consumer does not feel like their data is being misused. One overzealous marketing manager might decide that it's perfect to go and put every single name on every single emailer, but the consumer might turn around and say, I didn't agree to this. So those processes in those MarTech solutions will ensure that no person can go out beyond the remit of what the consumer has already consented to. Because remember, there is no clear funnel. I think someone was talking about it earlier. Earlier, there used to be a simple funnel. I see something, I see an outdoor ad, and then I like it. And at some point in time, I decide I need, choose any product, let's say a chair, and I go out and I buy it, right? The whole IDA and the simple funnel and funneling down on purchase behavior. The fact is there is no funnel. It's an omni-channel journey. There are different points in time in which you interact with different products and services. It could be someone who's advocating a product that they've consumed on social media, or it could be something that you see through advertising. The only way to ensure that you give the right personalized messages through that journey so that it is relevant and it does not invade privacy is through an omni-channel plan. And for that, again, you will need consent and privacy coming together for data. So the last part, which most people don't realize is that less is more when it comes to data. There was a point when the most quoted line was, data is the new oil. Now the fact is that data is not the new oil. It's what you do in terms of data-driven insights that will continue to be the oil that powers your engine, right? So less is actually more. Be very choiceful on what data you want and how you're going to use it. Because if you're not choiceful about it, you'll have reams and reams of it, and it's really expensive to maintain that data, to maintain the security, to maintain the privacy, and then ways to clean all of that up and put that out in a meaningful manner. This is an example of what I meant, and this is something we did at Diageo in Great Britain. And I thought this was such a beautiful message. I'm sorry if I'm blocking that slide. What this did was it said, there was a Father's Day message, right? And Father's Day is a great occasion where you might want to go and buy your father a great bottle of single malt, to celebrate the fantastic connection that you have with him. But it can be a difficult time for some people. And this actually said that by clicking the button below, you can opt out of messages. We'll still come back to you with relevant messages, but we realize it may not be your moment, right? What this does is it respects privacy, it looks for consent in an unambiguous manner, and at the same time, it possibly garners even more consumer loyalty, even if the occasion is not relevant to them. Yeah? So that's an example of less can be more. Good data privacy is good business for us because we believe that this is possibly the biggest engine across the value chain. We are GDPR compliant and we will be ready for the DPDP Act when it comes into play. We believe that by complying with these legislations, it puts us in a very advantaged position when we speak to consumers because for us, like I said, consumer is king. And why do we believe that we're ahead of the curve? That slide actually looks rather boastful. Because I think when it comes to that, I think we are slightly ahead of where consumers demand us to be. Today, consumers are not really demanding every single piece of what we do in terms of compliance. And that's why we believe we're ahead of the curve, right? We take some of the strictest legislations globally and we apply them, for example, even in countries like India, where it's not strictly required. Yeah. Because for us, every interaction with the consumer has the potential to influence our business. And in elevating that experience, and that's what making it better is all about, right? Better convenience, relevance, saying something that I believe in and I will trust you with. Connecting those two, data actually sits at the center of it. And therefore, complying with GDPR, having the DPDP Act compliance in readiness, having the right kind of MarTech partners with CDP and CRM, and equally marketing, interacting with our digital and with our technical teams to make sure that there is complete transparency and compliance while we elevate that experience is how we can make this a huge proposition for a value-added proposition for the business. So how do we handle our data? How we handle our data is actually very, very simple. Data collection is something all of you know about, right? You could have an experience, you could do transactions, well, not in India, but certainly in other parts of the world. There are profiles, there's data that consumers offer themselves. There's third-party data, which comes to us through maybe in clean rooms where you don't actually get more than the audience profiles. All of that's put into the consumer data platform. We call it treasure because it really is a treasure, this consumer data platform. And with that, you'll have a 360-degree view of the consumer. And you can do all kinds of things with it. You can segment, you can do all kinds of predictive work with it as well. And in the world of AI and Gen AI, this can actually be a valuable source of very, very good information and data-driven insights. We then pull it into a marketing cloud where it's aggregated. All of it's aggregated with all kinds of privacy guaranteed, right, for consumers. And that is used then to activate yet again. And this cycle repeats itself, right? And it repeats itself pretty much, I suspect, in the coming years, in nanoseconds, this whole process will continue to be activated. Because as we get into more and more intelligent platforms, all of this will be a continuous learning cycle that will fuel how you respond in terms of any context, in terms of any personalized need, and also in terms of any occasion. So that's really how we look at data and platforms. Is this the best way? I mean, I don't know. It's just the way we do it. But what comes out of all of this is the clear ability for the consumer at any point in time to revoke access. So in this whole platform, in fact, if I go back here, At any point in time, a consumer can revoke access to their specific data, which gets pulled out of that marketing cloud. And that's why it is necessary to have the right partners and to have the right ethics and compliance behind how you're going to be handling the data. The question that was put to me for this session, and I'm probably a little ahead of time, so the good news is you actually get to save time on this. The question was a provocative one, right? Who owns data? I think in all of this, the one thing I want to leave with you is the consumer, you, me, all of us as individuals. For everything that I might own a nice smartwatch and decide to wear it all the time and freely offer my data, the fact is I own my data and what I want to do with it. And therefore, it is good business for all of us, not just to use the data to elevate those experiences and deliver what consumers want, better and better experiences from our products and services, but it's also good business to then find ways to ensure that the consumer is firmly in control of that data so that you earn the trust and you build increasing relevance with consumers. And that's it from me, really. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much for such an enlightening session. So that is a wrap up for the day. Thank you everyone for being a part of our 4th edition Brandwagon 2023. Before we move out, we would like to thank our gold partner, Gupshup, celebration partner, Radico, and knowledge partner, Deloitte.